Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of Set Listing Bruce, your podcast all about Bruce Springsteen, his music, and mostly his fans. I am your host, Jesse Jackson. I have a special one today. I got an email saying, hey, the young man that's playing Steven Van Zandt on Delivery from Nowhere is available for an interview. Would you want to talk to him? I cannot tell you how fast, Johnny, I hit reply yes. How much do I have to pay you to do this? Johnny, welcome to Set Listing Bruce. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm great, Jesse. Thank you for having me, and I'm honored.
Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, my name is Johnny Cannizzaro. I am an actor. I moved out to Los Angeles about 20 years ago. I just passed my 20-year anniversary. I've been an actor that whole time. I grew up in an Italian American family in Brooklyn, New York. I have a twin brother. I have a sister who's a few years older. Although my brother's interests and mine don't entirely align, but I'm more creative, he's more business, but we all get along great. I started in theater. I've been doing that for a long time. I still love doing theater, but I transitioned to film and TV when I moved out to Los Angeles. And I've been doing it ever since, and it's been going pretty well, so I can't really complain.
Growing up there, what kind of music was your family listening to, and what kind of music was you listening to?
My family, it's funny, Italian American families, just generally speaking, like having Sinatra playing in the house is like a given. My parents, my grandparents, we always had Sinatra playing, and all the similar artists, Dean Martin, Louis Prima, Jerry Vale, people like that. But as we grew older, my parents suddenly developed this interest in country music. So they always had country music on, and my siblings and I, we hated country music because what kid likes country music? I've since grown a large appreciation for country music, but it was just funny that my parents went from Sinatra to country. So that's what I grew up with.
Johnny, you are preaching to the choir. I grew up in a family that, pardon the joke, from the Blues Brothers, listened to both kinds of music, country and Western. And you are not alone. Often I hear, and there's actually two kinds of fans, if I generalize it. The ones that like their parents' music and then expanded their horizon as they got older, and the
Mhm.
others that rejected their parents' music. And then when they hit 30, go, you know that Johnny Cash guy? Dad likes, he's pretty good.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
That's
it
pretty
can
much
get,
it. That's exactly what
oh,
happened. I don't
yeah.
know what it is. I think just about maturing and aging, you learn to appreciate things that you didn't appreciate in your younger years, maybe.
Oh, I absolutely agree. That brings it to fact is loving Sinatra. When I have people who grew up in Jersey that are big Bruce fans, I will ask them, asking them when they first discovered Bruce is like asking them, when did you discover your parents used Tide washing detergent? It's just always been in the air.
It's
So,
true.
yeah.
100%. I think that just comes with being from Jersey and growing up there. Bruce is truly a staple in that area. If you don't know Bruce, you either just moved there or you have no culture.
So I think it's interesting you and your brother going different paths, but did you always have this artistic bent?
Yeah, yeah, it's funny because no one in my family was really, my parents, my brother, everyone's creative to some degree, but a different kind of creative. No one was a performer. No one had an interest in entertainment. I don't have a show business lineage in my family. So I was the first one. Really, if I was going to attribute it to anyone, it was my grandmother on my father's side. She wasn't a performer, but she loved to perform. And it's
Hmm.
something that she never really fulfilled in her life. She never became an actress like she probably would have loved to, but she was a ham, as my relatives like to call her. So she was always trying to put on a show and she was very dramatic. And so I probably developed the interest in it from her. That's all we could figure.
And what you said, theater, did you perform in high school?
Yeah, yeah. When I was in school, I used to do all of the theater that we did, the local plays and whatnot, both community theater and in elementary school. And then when I got to high school, it was my freshman year, we were doing a production, the spring musical. It was The Wizard of Oz. of all things. And I auditioned for it, but I was so shy at the time. I hadn't broken out of my shell. Wasn't even close to breaking out of my shell at that
Hmm.
point. But I got cast as a tree in The Wizard of Oz, the trees that throw the apples.
Yeah.
So I got cast as one of those, and I just had so much fun with it. I remember it vividly. It was just a blast. And so that's really what got me hooked on performing. And I said, okay, for next year's spring musical, I'm definitely going to go for it and try to get one of the main roles. And I've been on a forward trajectory ever since then.
Before I'm going to ask you in a minute about moving to California, but
Mhm.
IMDb says you are a big Billy Joel fan.
That's a very true statement. Yeah.
Okay.
Billy Joel I'm such a huge Billy Joel fan. I can't even count how many of his shows at MSG that I've been through over the years. But yeah, I love everything about Billy Joel. I love his music. I love the way he writes. I love his ability to tell a story in a song, much like Bruce. Something about these East Coast musicians, I think, they really possess a quality where they're able to convey the feeling of living in a certain territory through their music. And yeah, it's just something about Bruce and Billy really just ignites me and gets me hyped up. I love their music.
So I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. Did you read Deliver Me from Nowhere, the book?
Yes, I did. Warren Zane's. It was really such a great read because it's so introspective and it delves deep into the emotional state that Bruce was in during that period of time. As an artist, as a creative, anyone in the creative arts could relate to it because we all go through those periods of darkness when we're not sure, are we good enough? Do we stand a chance of making it? So it's very relatable in that sense. But yes, I read it, and then there's an audiobook version as well, which I listened to that, which was just as insightful. You sometimes glean a little bit more from the audiobooks, which is why I like to do both.
Yeah, the reason one, I love the book and I was lucky enough to interview Warren and I'm hoping to get him again. He was very nice and he said, my
Yeah,
time's a little harder now with the movie, but I
yeah,
will work on it, Jesse. But I had him on right after the book came out. And I told him it read to me like a mystery novel. Like, why did Bruce have to make Nebraska before he did Born in the USA?
Hmm.
What was that reason? And so I found it great. The reason I was thinking is because of the changing in Columbia, right? The guy was a Billy Joel guy. And what's funny is everything I've read, all the interviews I've read, that Billy and Bruce really always respected each other and loved each other and admired each other's music.
Yeah. We've all heard the stories or have read them about when Bruce's motorcycle broke down somewhere on the highway, and Billy just happened to be passing by, and he stopped and he had his motorcycle sent to Billy's shop in Long Island, and they fixed
Yeah.
Bruce's motorcycle. I think Billy even went on the Tonight Show, or it was some talk show once, with the broken piece of Bruce's bike that they had fixed. So
I, I remember right when Billy Joel was on one of the late night shows.
yeah,
He was talking about it. He said, I was there and I was like, oh, he's going to invite me to come on stage because that's what we do. We invite each other on stage. And when he didn't, I was like, oh, what's this? He said, and then when I watched the show, I was, oh, now I get it. I understand what he's doing. There is, they've done a couple things together live on stage, and Bruce
yeah.
doing a New York State of Mind is just with him is just amazing. So, what, when did you decide to go to California? And what was there a road to Damascus moment, Johnny?
Actually, it's a much longer story, but to be brief about
That's
it,
okay. No, if you're okay with time, I'm okay with time.
yeah, no, that's okay. Yeah, it was actually a relationship that I was in at the time
Oh,
that ended somewhat poorly. When you're that age, when you're young like that, you don't have full control of your emotions all the time, and you're just figuring out who you are and trying to get a handle of your emotions. And then being a creative person on top of that makes it even more difficult. So for me, with the way the relationship ended, it was just very hard on me mentally and emotionally. And so I felt like I wanted to pursue acting. I figured I'd move out to LA at some point. I didn't know when that would have been at that point, but I moved out then to escape all of that drama.
like a
And
town full of losers, I'm pulling out of here to win.
way. But so yeah, so that's what I did. And my parents and my whole family were shocked by that decision, but they're very supportive. They've always been supportive of everything I've wanted.
Hmm.
Obviously, they were concerned, and I think they probably figured that I'd be back in 6 months.
Yeah.
And when I wasn't, I think they figured, okay, maybe this is what he needs to do. And I've been fortunate enough for them to support me as strongly as any parent could with everything I want to achieve in life. So I'm very grateful for that.
What was some of the first jobs you got when you're in California?
Oh my gosh. I've had so many odd jobs. I could talk about them. There was this one very bizarre job. I didn't even know what it was to show how naive I was. I saw an ad in the paper. It was for a company where we would all be in this room and then we would call people and try to sell them toner for printers and stuff like
Okay.
that. And that's what they say, you're just selling the toner. And then after working there for about a month or two, we came to realize, me and the other people that were working there, that it was a scam. It was a scam company. We were calling these people and trying to sell them toner that they didn't need. And so once we realized that, we were all like, what are we doing? And so we all quit
Mhm.
simultaneously. But so it was so strange.
Is there, obviously you got small roles and everything, but is there one where you went, okay, I made the right decision?
As far as roles,
Yeah, I don't have another option.
no, I think when you're just starting to build a career, you'll take whatever you can get. Philip Seymour Hoffman said, any opportunity you have to act, you need to take it because that's how you practice and learn and grow.
Right.
And some of them may have felt a little bit more creatively fulfilling because the character had more of an arc as opposed to the smaller roles where it's here's your
Hmm.
coffee, sir.
Yeah.
But they're all a part of the journey of an actor. You have to
Hmm.
do all that stuff in order to eventually get to where you ultimately want to go.
So I'm going to ask this as general terms, and we're going to get to the movie in just a minute, but I'm fascinated by this. I hear different people interviewing or telling stories that the person at the top of the call list sets the tone for everyone. Do you find that the case on a
Uh,
TV show or a movie?
Yeah, that is a common thing that people say, and I think it is true to a large degree. It all starts at the top. And so if the people that you're working with set the tone and create a good working environment for everyone else, it's infectious. That was certainly my experience on Deliver Me From Nowhere. Everyone was phenomenal to work with. And so I do think there's a lot of truth to that. And even with my own productions as an indie filmmaker,
Yeah.
I have to be the one to take accountability for a good set,
Hmm.
where it be because it just takes one. It just takes one negative person or one person with an attitude to kill the
Hmm.
vibe. So I'm
Yeah.
very cognizant of that. And I've been really lucky in the sense that mostly all the productions I've worked, actually, no, all of the productions I have worked on have it started at the top and it's been nothing but an enjoyable experience.
So talk to me about how did you find out about this project and go through the process of getting cast as little Steven?
Yeah. The funny thing was, I had no awareness of the project. I wasn't even aware that they were making what they called at the time a biopic about Bruce Springsteen. That's how it
Hmm.
was interpreted, although it's not a traditional biopic. But my manager got me an audition, and when I saw the audition breakdown, it said for Little Stevie. And I said, Little Stevie? I know Little Stevie. He's from Jersey. I don't know him
Yeah.
personally. And then I looked into it more, and then I realized it was a Springsteen project. And that just really got me excited because I'm being from the area, it just
Yeah.
resonated with me a lot more than I think it typically would have. I know I have to be a part of this. Plus, the other interesting part was that I know Stevie's brother, Billy. I've known him for a long time, and I used to work for him. I used to be a part of his stage crew because he's a playwright, and he
Okay.
worked a lot of his own plays in Jersey, and I used to work backstage on a lot of them. So it's interesting that when I finally did book the job, I wrote to him and I asked him if he'd be willing to connect me with Stevie because I was playing him. And he was just so gracious and kind enough to connect me with Stevie, which we'll get into that a little bit later, I'm sure. But as far as the audition process, it was on tape. Nowadays, all of our auditions are mostly on tape. And so,
I'm a big fan of like Katie Sackhoff's podcast. She played Starbuck on Battlestar Galactica and other stuff.
yeah, yeah,
She
yeah.
talks about how hard that is because you're not getting feedback or empathy. It's hard to perform for a camera?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and I think I'm probably one of the rare exceptions to this because I know the reason a lot of actors don't like self-tapes,
Yeah.
especially older actors who aren't technologically savvy. But the reason I like them is because it gives the actor so much more control as opposed to if we go into an audition room, you have one shot, maybe two if the casting director lets you do it again, and that's it. If nerves or whatever get in the way, it's okay, my chance is gone. Whereas opposed to a self-tape, I could work on it for 2, 3, 4 hours if I want to until I know that it's the best that I'm gonna do it. And then that's what I'm gonna submit. So it gives me the confidence of knowing I put my best work forward, which isn't always the case in an audition room.
Yes, that makes a little bit of sense, or makes actually a lot of sense because I was just working on something before you joined me, and I wrote out what I was going to say. I was doing a blurb for the podcast, and so I record it. I didn't like that, and I redo it and do it versus if I was just cold reading. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I think it's different for every actor because I know so many actors who hate them. They want to be in the room, they want that personal feeling, they want to establish the rapport with the casting director, and that's all totally valid. Actors have such little control of anything in this business. So, in that regard, having control of our self-tapes gives us the little bit of power that
Yeah.
we wouldn't otherwise have. And I think it only works to our benefit.
So I sent a few things to your wonderful team. So I know this may be a stupid question, but I'm always fascinated the pluses and minuses of playing somebody that is alive, that is a actual character, and also one that is so well known.
Yeah.
But let's get into that a little bit if you don't mind, Johnny.
Sure, yeah. It's always definitely challenging. I've had the privilege of playing several real life people. And that's always challenging because first and foremost, you want to be considerate of them, of who they are, and you always have to put some of yourself into every character that you do, but you also want to do them justice. And that's why it was important for me to try to meet Stevie because I wanted him to know that I was being considerate of him as a musician, as a performer, as one of the founding members of the E Street Band. All that's very important to me as an actor. And I know there are a lot of actors who don't want to meet the people they play because they think it's going to inform their portrayal and this and that. And again, that's all very valid too. But for me, I think it's super important because first and foremost, you just want to make sure that you're respecting who they are.
So let's go through that. Walk me through that process in the story, please.
Of meeting Stevie, you mean?
Yeah.
I reached out to Billy and I said, "You're not going to believe this, but I just auditioned to play your brother Stevie in a film, and he wasn't familiar with it. So I sent him the tape, and he gave me a thumbs up back. He thought it was a good job, but I hadn't booked the role yet at that point. I just told him about it. So I submitted the tape, and then a week later, maybe they said they wanted me to retape, which I did, but they wanted me to make a few adjustments, which I did. And then I sent that to Billy, and I said, now we're at this stage, and it seems like this could potentially go my way. Is there any way that I could connect with Stevie? And then, for whatever reason, my email must have got lost in his inbox, so I never heard from him for a while.
Oh,
I wound up booking the role, which was exciting, obviously. And then, maybe a month after I booked the role, Billy wrote to me and said, "Oh my God, I just see your email now. I hadn't seen it, but of course, I'm happy to connect you with Steve." So he did, and I met with Stevie. We had breakfast one morning down in the village, and he spent so much time with me, probably 2 to 3 hours. And I remember going in there with a whole page of questions that I wanted to ask him about his relationship with Bruce, about the early days of the E Street Band, about what music means to him, and all that. And I didn't get to ask any of those questions because our conversation just flowed so organically. I didn't want to ruin the flow
yeah.
of it. But he was such a great guy, so gracious, gave me way more time than I expected or than he had to. And it was really great to get that kind of insight from him. He's such a musical aficionado. He knows everything about music of that era. And I'm still in shock that I got the opportunity to do that with him.
Yeah, that's awesome. Is there a, are you someone that you find the key to open up the portrayal, or is it a process? What is the key for Steven?
I don't know if I'd call it a key. For me, in this case, There was a lot of source material that I could pull from that I could find online. I was more interested in the way that he approaches music and the way that he plays and the way that he holds a guitar. And all that stuff was very important to me because that's a big factor in portraying someone authentically. I was able to utilize a lot of those resources, but then the production had so many archival photos that I was able to look at
Mm.
it, which were super helpful. And I was also assigned a guitar coach named Larry Saltzman, who is a phenomenal musician and a phenomenal guitar player, pivotal in helping me break down the way that Stevie plays and the way he fingers the fretboard and his chord positionings and using this inversion instead of that inversion and all those types of things and the length of his guitar strap, which may seem silly to most people, but it was important to me. So we really got to break all that down, and I hope it communicates on screen. For me, I know so many actors who would not agree with any of what I'm saying, but
And
I always like to over prepare. I'd
okay,
rather, the old saying, it's better to have and not need than need and not have.
yes,
I apply that to acting as well. It's always better to have more information on a character or do, you know, rather than not enough, because then
yeah,
you're just flying by the seat of your pants. And I think all that stuff communicates on screen. If an actor's not into it or if they're just phoning it in and all that stuff. I never want to be one of those guys.
yeah.
I'm actually a piano player,
Oh,
mainly
okay.
played the piano my whole life pretty much. And I had a familiarity with the guitar, like I could play chords and do
Hmm.
scales, whatnot, but I wouldn't have classified myself as a guitar player. Although when I started working with Larry, he really got me into it again. So I've continued since. And
You have?
yeah, and I intend to keep it up because it's so much fun. I think, yeah, I love the piano and I always will, but I think being a musician, the more instruments we can get a good handle on, the more fulfilling it feels.
Yeah. Experiences you want to share?
The first time we met Bruce, because he was there every day virtually, that was so trippy.
Yes.
It was trippy.
So he was doing his book tour where he was meeting with people. You took your picture and then you
Yeah.
got a signed copy of his autobiography. 7 seconds. That's all I
Mm.
had. Seven
Well,
seconds. Look at him and go. So that's it. Yeah. He's never been on the podcast. I've never had a conversation with him.
yeah, exactly. I know I wasn't alone in that feeling. He couldn't have been nicer. I guess one of the things that really stood out to me, just watching him and observing him, when we broke for lunch, typically the whole crew would get together and go, everybody would get their plate and go get their lunch. And he was in line with everybody else, no special treatment. It wasn't in his own trailer. He was just in line, blue collar guy, which is who he is. That's who he is as a musician. That's what he writes about. So it was just so cool to me to see him display that in real life. He was waiting in line. He wasn't going to the head of the line. It was just normal guy. And it's hard not to look at someone like that and be like, all right, that guy's cool.
And it's really cool.
But I have to add to that too.
Yeah.
Everyone in this production had that same mentality and that same attitude. It was a very close-knit group, it felt. There was none of that diva attitude that sometimes you encounter, in
Yeah.
Hollywood. But there was none of that on this. So it just made it that much more enjoyable for everyone, I think.
So you've done a fair amount. You did Jersey Boys, you've done Quantum Leap, you've done The Rookie, you've been Charlie Chaplin a couple of times. Is this unusual, that kind of camaraderie?
For me personally, I've been very lucky in my experiences. I can't complain about a lot of the jobs that I've had the fortune of working on because I've always encountered really great people. I've heard horror stories from other people.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I don't really have many to share.
All right. So if you don't, we're going to get back to the movie in a minute, but talk about your own work, about so you have your work as a creator and an actor, but also on the other end,
You mean as far as being a writer and
yeah, a writer and a independent producer. I'd brag a little bit about yourself.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Yeah, no, I'm a writer as well. I got into writing probably about 10, 12 years ago now. And I was in an acting class at the time where the teacher was encouraging us to write our own stories and scenes. And so I wrote this scene. It was intended to be a really dramatic scene about this wife who walks in on her husband cheating on her. I wanted to showcase my acting abilities. So we do this scene, and then the teacher turns to me afterward and goes, He goes, that's not working. And I happened to have a wig that I had found at my job earlier in the day that I brought to class that night. And he goes, put that wig on and do the scene again. And so it was like this is just a silly wig like from the 60s. And so I put the wig on and I do the scene again. And it's the same exact scene, same dialogue, nothing changed at all, except everyone was laughing hysterically the whole time. And so it really taught me a valuable lesson that even though what I had written as intended to be a drama turned out to be like the most insane comedy. And ever since then, I've taken that character that I developed in that moment and I turned it into this really over the top, sociopathic, narcissistic, funny character that people have really grown an affinity for. I have a stage show based on him. His name is Jack Stevenson, a decent man. And now I'm trying to turn it into a pilot. And it's just funny, you never know the creative process where it could take you.
I think that's an interesting that you were, I'm going to do this drama and the same dialogue, right? It truly does tell you how you perform those lyrics and those words can change the meaning.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's what hooked me so much on this industry and acting in general is because you just never know one day to the next how inspiration can spur something. If I wasn't in that class and that teacher hadn't said, that's okay, but now do it with that ridiculous wig, I never would have discovered this character, which has
Yeah,
become such a big part of me.
yeah.
So it is interesting and it's what keeps it fresh and new.
So Johnny, is was there an inner fan in you like seeing Bruce and obviously you're professional enough that you're not going to lose your crap, but was there at least part of you inside going, I can't believe this?
Of course, absolutely. Yeah. I think everyone, it's funny to see how people act when Bruce was just standing around because, like, your inner fanboy does want to go,
Yeah,
but you have to maintain composure and be cool about it. But
yeah.
he's so cool and he's so down to earth. He was so friendly and kind and willing to take photos and meet people who were brought to set and all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
Did
So
you get
yeah,
a photo with him?
I did. Yeah, me and the rest of the E Street Band
Yeah.
guys.
And were you in costume?
I was,
Here,
yeah.
that's very cool.
He made a few comments actually the first day that he met myself and the rest of the guys who were playing the E Street members. He was like, "Wow, they couldn't have cashed you guys better." Especially
Oh,
especially me and the musician playing Clarence Clemens.
yeah.
He was a pretty close ringer for him.
So one of the things that I'm fascinated about little Steven is in interviews, he says that when he played on The Sopranos, Sylvia,
Hmm.
that he knew that character because he had done that his life with Bruce. He was the one who could speak truth to Bruce because their friendship was strong enough he expected it. Did that show up in the filming and with you playing some of the scenes you guys have together with Jeremy?
In my mind, it did. That was from the beginning. The first day when we were in the recording studio, Jeremy Allen White, who plays Bruce Springsteen, we were talking to the director, and Jeremy comes in, and he came and he put his arm on my shoulder and just leaned it up against me. When the first time you're meeting someone, you never know. As soon as he did that, I breathed such a sigh of relief because it was such a cool thing to do. Because in my mind, I read that as, okay, you get what the relationship is between these two. And he's the one playing Bruce. I just want to support his process and what he's doing.
Yeah.
But I was glad to see him do that because it indicated to me that he had a desire to have that relationship communicate on screen. For what I did, I just tried to help give him that.
And what's I think cool is your role as Johnny the actor is also the role of Steven the guitar player. Your role is to help Jeremy be as the quote unquote star of the film, but at the same time you're so that's a nice dynamics, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I always want to give 100% to everything I do. For me, my role was mostly primarily musical stuff. That's obviously the biggest part of who Bruce is his music and
Yeah.
his storytelling and all that. So that's why it was important for me to convey that. Jeremy Allen White was just phenomenal as Bruce, and I can't wait for people to see it because I think he's going to be getting, hopefully, a lot of deserved accolades. He was incredible to watch. He's an incredible performer, and he was so committed to Bruce and
Yeah.
to doing him justice, and just really admirable to watch.
So my son is a huge wrestling fan, and
Mm,
when he saw the Iron Claw, he
mm,
just loved his performance.
yeah.
And so my son is excited to see the film. So have you gotten to see the completed film?
I haven't yet, and I'm gonna see it at the same time that everybody else sees it at the premiere. I think it's gonna, actually, I don't think, I know just based on the experience that it's gonna, that audiences are just gonna love it.
Can you tell when you're working on a film or a TV show if it's going poorly?
Can I tell?
Yeah.
I think there's a part of you that could probably sense if something was feeling a little bit off kilter. Not so much on big studio sets like this. I've never had that encounter because everything is put together.
Yeah.
Some independent sets, I've certainly felt that at times. But yeah, you can feel it. You could feel it. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't put just as much effort into it.
Yeah. Kevin Pollak said that no one tries to make a bad movie.
Yeah.
And I always thought that was just really interesting. All right. So I'll put your hat on. Do you have two or three favorite Bruce and then more importantly, favorite Billy Joel songs?
Yeah. Yeah, God, I think I have way more than two or three. But
Okay.
my top Bruce songs. My first one is unconventional, but I just love it. I'll See You in My Dreams off A Letter to You. It's such a beautiful song, and you could almost feel like you're in the room with him when he was writing it. I just love that song so
Yeah,
much.
I quoted it at my mom's funeral, and
Oh,
it is such that late in his career to come up with something like that. So yes, I'm
yeah,
right there with you. It's a beautiful song.
yeah. But I think sometimes you need the life experience to be able to get that wisdom and to be able to communicate those things.
You're right.
My number two song would probably be. Actually, no, I'm going to stick to Letter to You for a second because
Okay.
the other song I love on that, which is definitely in my top three, is House of a Thousand Guitars. I
Yes.
love that tune. They were playing it when we were playing one of the big stadium scenes, and they were playing it in the speakers of the arena. It was
Yeah.
so powerful, and I was like, it was the first time I ever heard the song. I was like, oh my God, I love this song.
Did you watch the Letter to You video?
I did.
Did that
Yeah.
help feed your Steven? Because there are scenes where
Oh,
it is
yeah.
very clearly
Yeah.
I'm like, that's Silvio. That's him talking to Bruce.
Yeah, yeah. Stevie always refers to himself as Bruce's the consigliere of the E Street Band, and he relates his relationship with Bruce to his relationship with Tony Soprano in The
Yeah.
Soprano. I think it's so fascinating and interesting to hear that because you can see that dynamic that they have. For someone who wasn't an actor prior to The Sopranos, that's so incredibly insightful of him to figure that out in order to inform his character.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
So getting back to the top
Yeah,
three,
thank you.
a part of me, I hate saying like common songs because it's just, I feel like it's boring. But I guess my third would probably have to be Born in the USA, I think.
I often say it's Better Days, Land of Hope and Dreams, and the third changes every day. But yeah, there's a reason why Thunder Road and Born to Run are classics, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I got to play Born in the USA like 500 times on that.
Wow.
Now I love it even more.
How about your man Billy?
Okay, so Billy, everyone says one of their top three is the same, and it's mine too, which is Vienna. I love the song Vienna.
It's such a beautiful song.
I would say,
And it's okay, you can say all of them, and I get it.
yeah, I definitely do say all of them, but if I have to narrow it down, I love Scenes from Italian Restaurant. I love playing it on the piano too. It's so much fun to play. And then I would say probably Lullaby, Good Night, My Angel. I love that song too. That's another favorite.
Yeah, when they announced that he was not doing it well medically, and
Mm.
his daughter was talking about that, I played that and cried a little bit. It is just a beautiful song. He just has such a catalog. That
Yeah.
is amazing.
Yeah, their ability to tell stories through songs, lyrics, and words is just, it's unparalleled. It really is. And I know there's a lot of talented, amazing artists out there, but Billy and Bruce are the top of their crop.
I agree that. What haven't you got to do creatively that you still want to do? Is there anything major?
Yeah, I never consider myself fulfilled
Okay.
creatively. I'm always looking for the next thing. I'd love to do more music stuff. I'd love to play in a band, maybe. I haven't played in a proper band, so I'd
Yeah.
love to do that. I have a couple of TV pilots that I'm in the process of developing. I hope those will go somewhere at some point.
Yeah.
And as far as the acting goes, I just want to continue to do this sort of stuff because I get so much satisfaction out of it and just being a supporting part of the bigger picture.
Yeah. I remember, right, like they were talking about West Wing, and I don't want to be the man. I want to
Mhm.
be the man counts on, or
Right.
the person counts on.
That's what
So,
Stevie says too, actually. That's his motto.
yeah, I really is. All right, I'm going to ask you in a few minutes how people can reach you and any final thoughts, but I end every podcast with what I call the Mary question. So, what that is, Johnny, is Jay Armstrong was a Philadelphia high school teacher. He taught honors English. He's now retired. But when he was teaching, he would give his students the lyrics to Thunder Road, and they would treat it as if it was a poem, going through the imagery, the themes Bruce explores. And then he would ask his class at the end of the assignment, does Mary get in the car? So, Johnny, there is
Mm.
no right answer, but your opinion, does Mary get in the car at the end of Thunder Road?
I think there's a tell. I think there's a tell
Okay.
because the lyrics, from what I recall, he says he doesn't he doesn't tell Mary to, he says Mary climb in, as in Mary get in the car, as opposed to telling us that Mary climbs in. So
Yeah.
that's showing it leaves it up to the imagination that of the possibility is there. So I think she definitely gets in. But I like the fact that it's open-ended because it makes it more poetic.
Brian Koppelman from Billions, he said, we aren't supposed to know. That's what makes the song beautiful.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts? And then I'll get you out of here. You have been very kind with your time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. And I will just say my final thought is to tell your audience that the film opens October 24th. And I hope that they'll all go see it because I don't think they're going to be disappointed. There's a lot of really powerful performances and a lot to learn about Bruce that I think people don't know. So I hope they'll go check it out.
I absolutely agree. My plan is I'm going Friday night by myself. Then Saturday, I'm bringing my family. And then Monday night, we're going to do an open roundtable discussion. I'm going to throw open and all any Bruce fans that want to join me and do an open discussion of the movie. That's what we're going to do. So I am hoping it's successful. And I hope you get some nice reviews on your performance as well, Johnny, because you're
Uh,
a good guy. And I look forward to following your career.
Thank you so much, Jesse. I appreciate it. And thank you very much for this opportunity.
All right, listeners, be safe, be kind. Go ahead. I keep checking every day under AMC and Flandango. Can I pre-order tickets? Let's order it. Let's have it a great weekend, a big opening weekend. Be safe, be kind. We'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.